prior lectures, we talked about the death of God and how religion has failed human beings. But as the world progresses at a very rapid pace, we realize that, or at least I have been realizing as a person still continuing my journey, as somebody who is also opening worlds within worlds, opening doors, and it's all really nice, fine and dandy for human beings to indulge in this. It's kind of a form of self-indulgence, to have the luxury of survival and everything else is kind of taken care of, and we don't really have anything to worry about, unlike the animal kingdom and the plant kingdoms, where life is not so guaranteed, not so comfortable, not without so much conflict, like the LGBT kind of controversy where it's all about the toilets. It's kind of a luxurious argument, It wasn't like that 500 years ago, where open discourse would get you killed, freedom of speech wasn't so enshrined, and the press wasn't so vocal and vociferous in its attacks, and there were a lot of things that took place at the same time and kind of shorted out these kind of controversies that exist in the 21st century. This is a luxurious controversy. The human beings have been able to indulge in chatter as much as they indulge in commerce, the chatter with each other to make issues out of non-issues or non-issues out of issues. But that's how the human beings pass their time. I mean, you gotta realize that there's a fundamental problem on this planet, is that how do you pass your time? And in Africa and Asia, they're well-known areas of how to pass your time. Every African culture has a way to pass the time. You go to India and the word time pass is like huge over there. They want to pass their time because time is immaterial, is a kind of a punishment posting over here. And in Asia and Africa, they bear the brunt of existence. And they've got the basics covered, but they'll never get the luxuries, and in between lies a bit of a tortured existence, not entirely because of lack of luxuries, but also the lifestyle and choices that they've made, the families, the wives, the kids, and the in-laws that happen to be more vocal and more of the chatter you hear in Asia and Africa. But in the West, you have the press, which is kind of like your in-laws. It has that kind of freedom. It comes back to haunt you. It comes back to create issues that really are not issues, but how do you fill the pages of a newspaper today? And what are issues? What are relevant? And this brings me to the point I'm trying to make today, is what about the animal kingdom and what about the plant kingdom? I mean, look at their existence. We are actually killing them off. We are not existing in peace with them, much as we'd like to think that we are moral forces through our newspapers, through our media, through our TV, through politicians, through our religions, through God, who's promised us this wonderful existence where everything else is subservient to the human. There are no rewards or 72 virgins waiting for the tigers, for the dogs, for the pigs. And, in Christianity or Judaism, it's all about worshiping the human, the human's destiny. But what we don't realize is that if this planet is scarred and destroyed beyond a certain point, we're not going to be here. We're not going to have a future. And it's amazingly myopic. When I was a kid at 15 or 14, I was so idealistic, and I believed that everybody was working with and could work together and save the world, save the ecology. But what I saw as we got older, that nobody knows anything and everybody's involved in some kind of a process. As I mentioned earlier in my lectures, Alfred White Northhead, the Harvard professor, perfected the definition of the process in our lives. We like to keep ourselves busy, appear busy, earn money, and money making is usually part of a process. You join a company, and in the process you get paid, and in the process you rise, you get promotions, and it's part of a process where you can see the short-term and the long-term future, the pension, the retirement. And if you keep going this way, you're playing it safe, and you're going to end up in a nice place where they will care for you and where you will be cared for. And it's this innate selfishness, this self-interest of the human species. Even though they are blessed with intelligence, they are able to create fast machines and industries and destroy nature at ease, cut down trees by the millions, and plant whatever crops they want, genetically modified or not. The Europeans have been singularly successful at this, but the cost has been that the third world has also taken these technologies while not being so ecologically correct or morally correct, where a sort of a moral deficiency exists in the third world, in Africa and Asia, where they are able to kill wantonly, where they can kill tigers and lions and cut down trees for the immediate profit. Whereas in Europe, they use their technologies responsibly, reproduce responsibly. The children that a European mother had were few and have gotten even fewer. Whereas in the East, in Asia and Africa, having taken all those technologies, the chainsaws, the industrialization, the chemical plants, the industrial goods, the industrial machines to plunder the earth, to dig deep, to bring out the resources that remain hidden, criminally hidden by nature from man. And the third world man has been able to extract as much as he can from the earth, but there have been devastating consequences. He's suddenly gotten some money, like in India and China, and totally ruined his environment. The air is unbreathable, the water tables are falling, the population numbers are rising, and the animals are dying. The tiger is almost but dead, disappeared from India. I recently read a UN or WHO or a regional Asiatic meet of the Asian tigers, including India, that their tiger numbers were going up. And one of my friends went over to India and took a trip to the Jim Corbett Park, the park where all the tigers are supposed to live, and started by an Englishman. And the guy wrote to me a week later that he couldn't even see one tiger. It's like there's no possibility that a tiger exists in the Jim Corbett Park. And it was amazing. And then another friend flew to Kruger National Park, which is handled by the white South Africans, and has a better management team over there. And he was able to send me thousands of pictures of lions and lionesses and herds, and the kids in the hundreds. And it was very heartwarming to see that at the Kruger National Park of South Africa or Tanzania, I'm not sure, but it's got a German guy there who obviously established it and left a decent oversight, European oversight, to make sure that the numbers stayed. Whereas in India, the failure of the tiger is criminal. I mean, so what if the Chinese are offering millions of dollars for each tiger penis? But that doesn't mean that India should be rushing over tigers to China, in the process destroying India for what it used to be. And that's the criminality of it all, that India was the land of tigers, where hundreds of thousands of tigers roamed the land, and now look at it. It's destitute, desperate, horrible, crowded, very unspiritual place now. It was known for the tigers, spirituality, non-violence, but today we see everything the opposite. Spirituality is almost dead. The humans are just completely on another tangent, and the desperation of humans to achieve this life at any cost is proving to be the end of India. The Prime Minister, the politicians, and everybody are promising better lives only to the humans. They're not promising better lives to the animals, to the plant kingdom, to anybody else but humans. And the humans are satisfied as true Indians. And this is racism, I say. Racism. I mean, what about the other species that live on India that you share with this land, with the trees and animals? Now that is true racism. I mean, you have all sorts of fights that around the globe that you're racist, you're terrible, you don't like black people, you don't like white people, you don't like Jews, you don't like Arabs. But have you ever heard of anyone saying, oh, you don't like animals, or you're a terrible person? I mean, why can't that liberal be actually doing something for animals rather than going politically overboard with PETA and women with bare breasts and supposedly against fur, anti-fur, but it's kind of all nonsense. It devolves into kind of politics and humans trying to just make statements, but not really caring about the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, and knowing the species of trees that exist in an area, identifying the birds under threat, and taking it to a mass movement level where that kind of racism needs to be fought. It's really disheartening to see the human species just fighting it out amongst themselves, the lesbian, gay, transgender movement, the Black Lives movement. But these are tiny aspects of taking power from each other and trying to balance it out while remaining criminals. Black lives should look at Africa and feel ashamed of themselves, what they're doing to the continent over there. I mean, it's not enough just to blame the white man and colonialism. I tell the black people, take personal responsibility. It's time that you guys did something on your own rather than remain enmeshed in the white man's existence. It's not going to get you anywhere, and your animals will continue to suffer as you continue to sell diamonds to the white man. And that's not going to be the solution. The Africans have to develop their own sustainable intra-African economy, sell to other Africans. Let the Africans produce goods that they can circulate maybe even exclusively in Africa or, internationally, but at least have the backbone, the structure, the discipline, the technology, the physics, chemistry levels have to be mastered. And then you can start taking care of your environment by taking personal responsibility. And at least in European white man countries like America and Europe, where they still have ecological disasters and problems, but we don't find the level of the magnitude of the disaster being, let's say, as much as in India for the tiger or, the elephants, or just the sheer number of percentage of forest cover and air pollution. So keeping all these things in mind, you find that the rush for the third world to produce all the goods for the first world has immense ecological price, and they are paying it. Meanwhile, we see religion still making a strong comeback in Asia and Africa, namely Islam, and whereas Islam is promising heaven and 72 virgins for every terrorist, every Muslim, everybody who wants to believe in Allah, but is not really geared towards plants and the animal kingdom. And it's like the egocentric behavior, the patriarchal society of the human or the father in the center and everything else secondary, the women and the children and the animals and plants don't even figure in that patriotic society. And that's the tragedy, that it's not that we want to break down social order among humans, but we want to protect the animals and plants as much as we want to have the humans have a good life. But the humans have to give up some power. Like Black Lives demands power from the white man, so must the animals and plants demand power from the humans. And the humans must relinquish vast swathes of territory back to the animals. I mean, all that they really need is for the humans to move out. They don't need any human help, fertilizers or zoos or video cameras or national parks and all that nonsense. All that the animals and the plants want from the humans is, please leave us alone. And that's the whole thing. Whereas among the humans, the Black Lives Matter, they're not going to leave each other alone. The blacks are not going to leave the whites alone. They live together, they're part of the same economy, and they function together. And there's always going to be this tussle between the Jews and the Christians and the blacks and the Muslims, and everybody fighting for a piece of the cake. Now, the animals and plants, unfortunately, being mute, they can't say anything. They don't have lawyers. They don't have special interests. They don't have lobbyists. They don't have anybody. And the humans, armed with religion, with self-proclaimed superiority, with God himself on the side of humans against all animals and plants, and the destruction of earth is but self-assured with this prophecy, with this end of times behavior. It's just man going out of control. Man must get out of vast swathes of the rainforests in Brazil, must in India go leave vast swathes to recover. The dams need to be taken out. In Africa, it's so difficult with economies over there in shambles, like Zimbabwe, and there's not much you can do, but still just leave them alone. The animals and plants will make a comeback and live on their own. And once we start leaving animals and plants alone, what we're going to see is that the kingdoms will reflourish, and with that, maybe this El Nino effect, this climatic change, will also start reducing in severity. What we have to do is establish zones. We have to have, we have demilitarized zones, maybe like on the Golan Heights, where the UN patrols. The UN should actually be patrolling forest areas of Asia and Africa, where elephants are threatened for their ivory and the tigers are killed for their penises and their skins. The UN, if it was really not a hypocritical body of just made of hypocrisy and nonsense and equal distribution of rights among humans, but having nothing to do with the animal and the plant kingdom, and would never take any steps for them, and is engaged only in balancing out power among humans. And this is very short-sighted. It makes the UN look really small, provincial in nature, though it tries to have a universal mandate. It thinks no end of itself. It's got a big budget, and the officials think no end of themselves. But the point is that it's entirely ineffective in combating the ecological disasters that are facing the glaciers, the forests, the rains, and all the systems of the oceans, the coral reefs, and everything is just disastrous. And the only way it can be rectified is having draconian laws, biospheres from where humans are excluded from ruthlessly. Stalin did that to his biosphere. It wasn't really a biosphere, but in the Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan region of the Tian Shan range, where the walnut forests are, near the nearest city being Andijan. Over there, up above in the mountains, Stalin had a resettlement policy where he removed all humans. And what happened was that they found 40 years later that all sorts of species thought to be extinct, animals that hadn't been sighted, rare goats, rare bears, were starting to make a comeback. And the walnut forests remain some of the best in the world. But guess what? It required lack of humans. The humans had to be evacuated. This tells us that the humans themselves are the parasites, the viruses, the locusts, the destroyers, the very plague that they fear in their Bibles and Korans is their own reality. They have become the plague on this planet, and they're too dumb and blind to see it. And there's nobody here to tell them. The politicians will sing them songs to get the humans on board, but the animals can't vote, the plants can't vote. And if we continue killing them at this present rate, we're not going to have anybody to vote for pretty soon. It's extinction that we're looking at, not just of animals, but we're linked to them. But we've given ourselves such egos, such destiny. Oh, we're the finest painters, we're the finest scientists, we're the finest builders. Oh, we have the best God who offers us heaven and hell and Jesus. And how lucky could we be? But the reality is that just like the animals, the human anatomy is the same. I mean, a human thinks that his penis and testicles are somehow superior to that of a baboon's or a dog's, but they're the same. They hang the same way, morphologically similar. The woman's vagina is very similar to the dog, the female dog's vagina. Everything looks the same. And people start ascribing value to each other. They wear the fanciest clothes. They've got new designs. They've got new material, polymers. What are they covering? They're covering animal anatomy. And the dog and the ape, and they all laugh at them. You're using all these fine materials. You think you actually have a different destiny from us? Your destiny is as much part of the cycle as any of us. And the human has to pause and think. It's all nice and dandy to have fancy things, fancy electronics, but what are we really doing on this planet? Are we destroying this planet from inside out, thinking that we're getting ahead? We don't have technologies that promise us salvation. We don't have technologies, the rockets, the fusion power that's going to lift us out of this planet. We don't have any of that to save us. We don't have, as yet at least, a salvation technology. And till then, till we don't have the option of leaving this planet, and even then we have to establish colonies in space, on the other planets, colonize them, terraform them. We're talking about 50 to 100 years. Now, if you talk to anybody in the know on the climate change, on the animals, on the planet, on the plants and the glaciers, you just have to go to the Himalayas of India, to Bolivia, to Peru, Machu Picchu, and from there you can see all the glaciers have melted. And it's a crying shame, because once the glacier's gone, the water's gone. You're looking at something called extinction of finite resources. And this causes a lot of problems, and we wonder what the hell we're going to do. What are the answers to this? Unfortunately, all the culprits are human activity, and the only true answer is to get rid of human activity in areas and where the UN has created biospheres. The animals have returned, but try creating one in densely populated areas like Asia and Africa, like in India. It's just impossible with the numbers. And the people of these countries have to start taking personal responsibility, stop thinking that they're divinely blessed, that their God is the best, and their idol is made of solid gold, and this is going to get them to heaven, or they worship the cow and save all the cows from the evil Muslims. But guess what? All their tigers are going away, and they're holding on to their cows. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation where you find people are not really thinking, they're behaving, they're talking from their egos, from the gut, from their religions, and eventually they'll have to realize that it's all causing them to become the perfect storm for this planet, like the plague. So people have to start rethinking everything. Okay, your psychology. Everybody has a psychologist in New York. Everybody wants everything for themselves. But when did the animals ever get a psychologist? Pay $100 an hour, when was that luxury extended to the other kingdoms? Oh, but we're racist in that term, isn't it, aren't we? And that's where the real problem rises, that we self-masturbate so much that everything is about us, all the drugs, all the alcohol, all the psychologists, psychiatrists, medicines, painkillers, and everything is all about your existence to get out of this planet, being sane. But what about everybody else on this planet? The point is that we meet a lot of vegans, we meet a lot of vegetarians, and they think they're doing their part, but it's all a drop in the ocean. The real stuff is evacuating vast swathes of forest land and letting the animals live over there. You gotta let them be alone, untouched, pristine. Then the animals will start making a comeback and share the earth with us. Right now, we are not in any mood to share this planet with anybody else. We are a very rapacious species. We talk about, that woman got raped, the women are being raped everywhere, the poor women. I'm like, get over that nonsense. I mean, since when was the only species that was important humans? What about the animal kingdom that's being raped? What about the forests that are being raped? I frankly couldn't give a damn about all the women being raped on this planet, the violence, the Muslims, the suicide bombers, and all that nonsense that happens with humans. Good. I mean, the humans are not the end-all and be-all of this planet. Okay, the Holocaust happened, 6 million Jews died. Whoop-de-doo. What are we gonna do about it? We just lost 100,000 tigers in India. So the Holocaust is going on for everybody, for the animals, for the kingdoms, or the plant kingdoms, and we can't all just dote and dwell on ourselves. It's just masturbation. The Holocaust museums. Where are the museums for the tigers? Where are the museums for the lost species? Where are the museums of the blue whales? All the killings that we've done. No, but every head of state needs to go to the Yad Vashem, needs to, really pretend to be sad that 6 million Jews died. I mean, this is a kind of a fascist mindset of the human race to just think about themselves and only themselves. We have to break out of worshipping ourselves, our power structures, the kind of people that we deem important, but step out of the human race for some time and live with the others and kind of respect them, not just by lip service or donating $1 on Facebook, save the rainforests, but actually making a species movement. For example, how we have among the white race, the Europeans, how we have the liberals. You have millions of liberals, Bernie supporters, who really want a better life for humans. They're some of the most selfish people out there. All they can see is themselves, their own college degrees, their money, their lives, what matters to them. So they might be socialists or whatever, but they're not environmentalists. They're not looking for the good of this planet. They're only out there to look for themselves. And this is what I find wrong with the Bernie supporters too, that they're all me, 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 me. And all I see are hungry, needy people. And that makes them bad people overall. They're not interested in the environment. Till we have somebody, some politician standing up who's talking about for everybody, all the species, all the races on this planet, then we're looking at a mature politician. Right now, we're looking at all immature, me, human beings first, kind of people who really don't know what they're doing, redistributing resources amongst themselves. the animals and the plants could be like, oh, they're the 1%ers, we're the 99%. We get nothing. And that's how they feel. Once you ascribe emotions to animals and plants, then you can see what they feel. And till that sea change, that radical shift doesn't happen from a kind of a Black Lives movement, kind of a anti-Semitism movement, save the Jews, save the blacks, save the LGBT crowd, equal rights for everybody, till we get a kind of a movement, save the animals movement, save the plants movement, plant lives matter or animal lives matter, till we get people that enthusiastic in societies, it's not going to change. And we don't have much time, and my message is short and to the point, kind of brutal, breaking through, but nobody has time to dote on this, dwell on this, and get nowhere. So I hope that we start rethinking everything, what we're doing. We're some of the most intelligent people in the psychedelic scene. It's usually us that kind of have we're invested in the psychedelic mushrooms that Gaia has given us, that the earth chooses to give us. Ayahuasca, DMT, the active chemical being DMT in ayahuasca, has shown us that there's so much more to life, so many more dimensions. The mushrooms have shown us that there's so much more, the religious experience of being with Gaia. And it is the psychedelic people's responsibility who've already lost their egos, their boundaries, their nationalities, their self-love to quite an extent, to be able to go and help the plants and the animal kingdoms. And that's a true movement. The hippies, the psychedelic movement has kind of lost steam. They're kind of rudderless. Timothy Leary's movement kind of fizzled out in America. The European movement kind of fizzled out in Goa. And the psychedelic people kind of have no real direction apart from just living, being artists, but trying to make an existence. But it's all bourgeois. I mean, to become real artists, they have to come back with burning passion. And there's nothing like saving the earth, the animals and the plants in a radical, nice way, explaining things to humans that we're the problem and not the solution. We need to take ourselves out of nature. We need to reproduce less in Asia and Africa. We need to stop this religion bullshit, this God, Allah, Muhammad bullshit. We need to get out of these hypnotisms. We're being hypnotized by advertising from God and Allah thousands of years ago by their so-called books, and it's all advertising, and we're just hypnotized bunnies. And till we get out of all these hypnosises, these ego traps, cultural traps, with grandmothers expecting grandsons in the Asiatic culture, and all that nonsense stops, and every human starts to think for himself and not his grandmother or, his mother or family expectations and all that. Till then, the humans are trapped in chains, and will only end up killing all the animals and plants on this planet. Thanks.